Welcome to round 3 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast for the week of May 31st. I'm Catherine Alecko, and I'm here with Terry Morrow.
Hello.
And Nicole Eridix.
Hi there.
We're moms of teens and young adults, and when it comes to parenting, we've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. But we're still waiting for that day when we'll reach the finish line and have no further need to lay down in a dark room with a wet rag over our eyes, worrying about something or other. Wednesday's complaint day here on Parenting Roundabout, and today we're complaining about school behavior. Following up on our Monday discussion about positive discipline and positive parenting, we don't really have positive things to say. Well, Terry, explain.
You explain.
Yeah. We had a discussion last week, I believe, about parenting portals. And Nicole was saying that as a teacher, she would have liked to have put information on the parenting portal about all the different times during the day that the kid was distracted, that the kid was acting up, so that the parents would know what teachers have to put up with. And when I first heard that, my thought was, well, I can't do anything about what's happening at school. What is the reason that my kid is acting up in school? Is it because the bus was an hour late and he was on the bus for a long time, or that somebody else's bus was late and so they just sat there for the first hour of class and did nothing? Is he next to a window? Is there somebody else acting up in the classroom that's attracting him? There's so many things that parents don't know about that happen in the school day that impact on behavior. So me, later that evening, saying, I'm going to punish you right now for the way you behaved in school is completely meaningless. You have to know what the antecedent is before you can address the behavior. Mm-hmm. But then I also got to think of it a little more, and there are times when this would be super useful. Like there was a year when I was getting a lot of reports home that my son was acting up in school. And they were going to get a behaviorist in, but there was a backlog in the district. So it turned out the behaviorist didn't get there till like June. So that's super helpful. But she did go ahead and do her observation and wrote up her report, and we looked at it with the new teacher the following year. And it turned out that one of the main problems was that he kept kicking his shoes off. And he would kick his shoes off, and his paraprofessional would say, put your shoes back on. He put his shoes back on, and then he's kicked his shoes off. And all through the day, put your shoes on, put your shoes on, put your shoes on. So that completely screwed up the day for him, because that's all he can concentrate on is this nonsense, and probably for other kids in the class too. Because can you imagine going through a day hearing that over and over again? Oh my goodness, stop. And I thought, if one person had thought, I'm going to tell his mom about this, I would have sent different shoes. I would have spent lace-up boots he couldn't have kicked off, and there would have been no problem. Why, oh why, would nobody have said, yo, your kid's kicking off his shoes, what the heck? So that's something that would have been useful to have on a parent portal. So I thought we could talk a little bit about school behavior and experiences we've had about it, and if we wished we'd had more information or less information. And maybe, Nicole, what do you think that parents need to know or need to ask about if there's concerns about the kid's behavior? I've had times when it was absolutely nothing I could do anything about, like Christmas programs. If once the practice starts for the Christmas program, my son's behavior would go down the tubes because the routine was messed up. And one year I did take him out of the Christmas program, but it doesn't matter. The routine's screwed up whether you're going to the practice or not. It's still, the day is not the day. But then there's other times when there's such simple fixes if somebody would communicate. Have you guys had any situations like this, or Nicole, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I think, I didn't really fully realize that until I had kids of my own. That, first of all, behavior is communication.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So, and whatever the kid is relaying to you, it's something that he's trying to tell you is going on, whether that's something you can see or not see. Yeah. So, and then, of course, the other part is that I think so many of us as educators, I don't know. Okay, I don't want to paint us all with the same brush. But we tend to overlook the role of the environment in the child's education. So what does that mean? Well, there are a lot of influences in everybody's environment that has an impact on them, right? Like temperature, lighting, whether there's pollen in the air. And so that carries over into the classroom, obviously. Just because it's a learning environment doesn't mean it's like this ultimate capsule of education, right? So I think, as teachers, we tend to overlook or forget or just not even look at what is happening in the child's environment before we start to look at the child's behavior, right? So when I was teaching, I didn't have my own kids. Of course, I was just always like, it's about the kid, it's about the kid, it's about the kid, right?
Right.
And, what kind of deep and meaningful things are they trying to tell me with their behavior? Well, and then I have my own kids, and then my daughter, for example, she was in a class one year, and the teacher was constantly complaining about her chatting, which she's a chatter. So I was like, okay, that's reasonable. And so we would have lots of conversations around that, but it was starting to affect her grades and whatnot. And so I thought, you know what, rather than saying to her, like, it's that whole, why are you doing this? It's about what's going on around you, or what's going on, what's happening that is causing you to do this. So then I'm like, so we started talking, and I started asking her about, and it was the very beginning of the year, so I really hadn't had a chance to get into the classroom yet, but I started asking her about who she was sitting with, whether where she's situated, all this kind of stuff. Well, of course, it turns out that she's in a table group with, some other kids who are very chatty as well. And, they were near the door, and the door was constantly opening and closing. It was just a really high traffic area in a really highly distractible space in the classroom around highly distractible, fun kids, right?
Right.
And apparently the teacher, perfect storm. And the teacher apparently, once he set his table groups, that was it. He did not change them all year for anybody. So, so I had to very politely kind of explain my point of view as to what was going on, and a request that she be moved to another part of the classroom. And he was very open to that. He was open to that discussion. The previous podcast. So I think those are the kinds of questions that parents should be asking as well. Like, okay, the teacher said that you were displaying this behavior, but not that you want to second guess the teacher, not that you want to not give them any credit or value, but it's like, okay,
you're trying to gather information.
You're investigating, right? Like, don't fly off the handle. Don't jump to conclusions. Just kind of take a look at it. Like, what work are you doing? Who are you sitting with? Where are you sitting? What supplies are you using? Like, it can, all of that can just be such, it could be tiny little triggers that set kids off, and parents have no idea.
No. It's so frustrating. If we could just ask teachers to be investigative in that way, that'd be helpful. Because it's really awkward as a parent to open that conversation without sounding like you're accusing the teacher of being incompetent.
Totally.
I would sometimes say things like, I know in past classrooms, my kid has had a problem when this was the case. So you might want to look out for that, even if I know that that's what's causing the problem. It's like, just throwing out ideas. I know this has been a problem for other teachers. So then it's like not coming directly from me. Or I would ask other teachers to tell a teacher something.
It's really hard to have those conversations.
It really
because you don't want to, I've been in situations where parents have second guessed every little thing I've done. And it's, and that in itself is like really frustrating and doesn't create good relationships between parents. But at the same time, then I've also had, been in situations where I've seen that, if the teacher just did this, that kid's whole day would change. Right?
Sometimes it's just so easy.
Yeah.
It's some stupid little thing that if you would just do it. But people get territorial. And and I wish that teachers would also, not only investigate stuff in the environment, but anything that could be causing it. Like if
Totally,
somebody
yeah.
tells me, hey, the bus gets here. Well, my kid was in special education, so he took the bus. If a teacher told me the bus gets here 45 minutes late every day and then he starts his day out on a bad thing, I would drive him to school.
Totally.
It's like, tell me what exactly is causing the problem, not just, it takes him an hour to focus once he gets to class. The extra information of what happens before he gets to class is super helpful. And something that I can do something about. Or if, you put something in the kid's lunch and he's throwing it around the lunchroom, tell me that. I will send him something different. So, and of course the whole shoe situation, which still makes me mad when I think about it.
Yeah. What are your experiences, Catherine?
I remember a time where one of my kids was getting marked tardy every day. Mm-hmm. And, I was bringing them to school at the regular time.
This is something different. Go on.
But they were just dawdling or whatever. They were not actually going inside and being counted, or they were hanging around by their hook instead of whatever it was. But I didn't find out for like weeks. And the kid was being marked tardy every single day. Like, maybe somebody could let me know. I have no idea. I drop them off. I drive away. Like, I don't know that they're not getting into the classroom. So, I need to know that. I can start bringing them earlier or talk to them about what's causing the holdup, whatever.
And wasn't there a situation, too, when you had a child who had to leave campus for a certain period of time and then...
Oh, yeah.
Was that parking place?
Couldn't get a parking place. Yeah, that was my daughter. Yep.
And that caused challenges for her.
Yes. She was being marked late or absent. Worse than that, absent. Like, like, she's there. She's just late because she has no place to park.
Right.
So, yeah. And in that case, she was working at a different school. It wasn't like she was just...
Yeah.
Moseying in way after the bell or whatever.
And then you tried to intervene in that, and they didn't care, right?
They really kind of didn't care, yeah. I think their position was maybe that she should leave earlier from the other thing or something, but, then she wouldn't have been doing anything. Then she would have been only in the other school for such a short amount of time that it wasn't worth it.
So, you would think that would be understood.
Right.
But what's the thing that they say, Nicole? It's ABC. Is it antecedent behavior consequence?
Yeah.
Okay, that's maybe a good thing to think about in terms of school behavior if you get reports of your kid having problems in school, is to try to find what the antecedent, which is the sometimes not directly connected thing that goes before the behavior. So, it's so as talking as we were on Monday about hitting your sister, using that as an example, maybe, it's something that the sister did right then, but also maybe this kid has had like a no good, terrible, horrible, very bad day up until then, and all those things have reduced his ability to control himself, or all these things have increased his stress so that one little thing sets him off. Those things are useful to trace. And especially in school, it's hard for parents to know what they are, but if you can, something that's good to do is to, if your kid's in a school for 6 or 7 years, build friendships with staff along the way. Yeah. Stay in touch with your kid's first or second or third grade teacher as they move up. Stay in touch with the paraprofessionals if your kids have those. Get to know the lunch lady. Get to know the nurse. Have little people around there that you can kind of ask, hey, there's a problem. Do you have any idea what? I always say work in the school library because librarians know everything. They will tell you. They know the kids, they know the teachers, they know what the classroom dynamic is. It's very useful. So that's a thing that you can do in a very difficult situation.
And it's hard to not make assumptions because we all want to, because we kind of also think about our own experiences in school. And so we have bias towards teachers and the teaching profession in some cases. But it's not always black and white, and you need to really just be an investigator.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
investigate before. And then, Anyway, well, that could go on forever. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about.
Yes. Another installment in this topic.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, that's it for today's round 3. Tune in tomorrow when we'll obsess about mom strikes. And then on Friday to see what we've come up with for our Roundup picks for this week. Find all our episodes at parentingroundabout.com and talk back in the comments there, on our Facebook page, or on Twitter, where you will find us at Roundabout Chat.